Calm down, dear. Whether it's Brexit, Donald Trump's victory in 2016 or Boris Johnson in 2019, political polling of late has been about as accurate as a Gary Barlow tax return. There was huge excitement in Labour ranks about their performance on Thursday, winning the Blackpool South by-election with an impressive swing away from the Tories, taking the West Midlands mayoralty from the popular Conservative incumbent Andy Street and scoring hundreds of council seats. Plus, Londoners must reconcile themselves to 4 more years of divisive identity politics, congestion, spiralling knife crime, antisocial behaviour, and having to pay £12.50 for the privilege of driving their car under the re-elected Sadiq Khan. So Labour think that they're home and hosed. But I don't think it's too late for that support to dry up. And I'm not the only one. A shock new projection from Sky News, using the latest figures from Thursday's local elections, suggests, in spite of the Tories' collective nervous breakdown, Britain is heading for a hung parliament. Based upon results from 2 million council wards and projecting those voting figures into a nationwide estimate, Labour is on course to be the largest party in Parliament, but will fall short of a Commons majority by 32 seats. Meanwhile, polling guru Michael Thrasher has thrashed out the numbers and told Sky News' Sunday morning show that Labour needs to be at double its current 7% national equivalent vote to win a majority in the House of Commons. So they need to double their current support. Which means that Labour's performance on Thursday is far from the triumph that they would have you believe. At the fag end of a Tory government with 4 prime ministers in the last 6 years, a cost of living crisis, sky-high energy bills, spiralling interest rates, and a country still reeling from what I consider to have been a disastrous COVID overreaction, leading to an NHS waiting list of 8 million people, a broken economy and a generation of damaged kids, how is it possible that Labour still don't have enough support to win a landslide? Well, as I have suspected for a long time, there's no great excitement at the idea of Prime Minister Starmer, someone who, in my view, is nothing more than a walking political algorithm, a human manifestation of ChatGPT software gone wrong. Tony Blair, he ain't, and 1997, this is not. Moreover, Reform UK did not have the impact that they might have hoped for last Thursday, and whilst the Greens and Lib Dems performed well in relative terms, plus smaller parties and independents, the door remains ajar for an unlikely Conservative victory in November, with Rishi Sunak potentially doing a John Major and grabbing victory from the jaws of defeat, as Major did in 1992. Rishi Sunak is in a good position as the country turns the corner after a torrid 4 years. Inflation is coming down, and yes, Sunak can take some credit for that, as he faced down the militant unions with their inflation-busting pay demands. Plus, he's kept a lid on public spending, which raises prices. The Rwanda legislation is through. The first voluntary migrant has already arrived in the African nation. The authorities are currently catching up with others who are illegally here, and those flights will take off in the summer. Rishi Sunak can point to the Deputy Prime Minister of Ireland, Micheál Martin, who has effectively said the Rwanda plan is already working, with migrants bypassing the UK and heading straight for the Republic. Meanwhile, today's papers report that the Belfast to Dublin coach route has now been nicknamed the Brexit Express due to the increased number of asylum seekers in Northern Ireland using this bus service to travel down south to seek refuge in Ireland. Look, it hasn't been a glorious reign, but since he came to power less than 2 years ago, Rishi Sunak has steadied the ship, presiding over modest economic growth and largely avoiding recession, unlike the Eurozone. He has ended the Brexit deadlock in Northern Ireland with the Windsor Framework, which has seen the restoration of power sharing in Northern Ireland. He has recalibrated our approach to net zero, making it more sensible, more affordable and more realistic. And he has begun the woke fight back against bonkers trans ideology. And word on the street is that legal net migration, which was approaching 700,000 last year, is also seeing a sharp decline. When the public go to the polls, most likely in November, it is clear that the toxic Conservatives will struggle, and deservedly so, after the shambles of recent years. Partygate, the Liz Truss mini-budget, and Boris Johnson's disastrous acquiescence to the doom-mongers at Sage, whose lockdowns, mask mandates and vaccine tyranny caused so much damage. But when it's a choice between Sunak and Starmer, it is not so cut and dried. Starmer, responsible for more screeching U-turns than Lewis Hamilton, is not trusted. No one knows what he stands for, following his about-turn on his £28 billion Green Revolution, his previous support for Jeremy Corbyn to be Prime Minister, his efforts to reverse Brexit, and most pathetically, his sudden decision last weekend that biological sex does matter now, having previously thrown the heroic Labour MP Rosie Duffield under the bus with his insistence that she was wrong to say only women have a cervix. Now he says only women do have a cervix. Make it make sense. Sunak has now got 6 months to prove that he is the one that deserves 5 more years in power. It's unlikely, but it's possible. Labour's champagne socialists shouldn't pop their corks too soon. They might find that by November some of that sparkle has gone flat.